we do have some breaking news we want to spend some time with today. Of course, we've all been under the shadow of the government shutdown. For me, it started to kind of manifest itself in real terms this past week as I was trying to travel back to Chicago.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here.
Right. And my plane wasn't delayed multiple times because there was a problem with the airplane. My problem wasn't that the local Denver air traffic control wasn't capable or staffed well enough to get me up and off the ground with my fellow passengers. It was that air traffic control in Chicago was short staffed and we couldn't land. And it was not a fiasco of a flight, but I mean, this is what it looks like or looked like in real terms. We took off about 2 hours late. We flew about 3/4 of the way to Chicago and then went into a holding pattern, I think somewhere over southeast Wisconsin, or southwest Wisconsin, northeast Iowa, and just flew around in circles for about a half an hour before we went in and landed because we had a window. I'm sure, and without a doubt, other people are feeling this in more, certainly more substantial ways than mine or
it is a very sad state of affairs. And I mean, we talk about the direct economic impact of a government shutdown. We talk about the fact that people weren't getting paid or basically foregoing consumption activity, or basically having to rely on the charity of others for things like food, right? Just the basic needs. But we don't talk enough about the other effects that this is going to have or is already having. Such as, for example, you just alluded to it, this idea that basically we have to reduce the number of flights around the country, which is going to affect, it affects tourism. But on top of that, it also affects business travel. And that's a big chunk of change, right? And so you talk about foregone economic activity. Well, there you have it. This is a good example of how the government shutdown can actually slow economic growth. Now, some of it, of course, will probably be caught up in the future quarters, but some of it will be gone forever.
Yeah. Well, not to bury the lead. I mean, the news that came in over Sunday night, we're taping this on Monday morning, or somewhat early in the day. There hasn't been a whole lot of anything coming out of Washington just yet. But on Sunday night, that would be November 9th, the U.S. senators finally broke the government funding impasse, and they voted 60-40 to advance a bill ending the government shutdown. That's straight from Therese Boudreau, who covers Capitol Hill for the Center Square. So from here, it looks like there's a framework for a deal. There are, somewhat sketchy details at this point in terms of what's in agreement and what's not in agreement. But the America Cares Act, is at the heart of this and subsidizing, the so-called Obamacare plan, has been a major sticking point. There's just one piece of information, just sort of overarching. I think it's valuable. It's kind of like the headline inside of this particular headline, that the gross federal cost of ACA subsidies have grown to $138 billion a year now, from $18 billion when this program started. So, roughly, 7 times, what they were at the beginning. That has been an issue that the Trump administration has wanted to address specifically. I'm not really certain, though. I mean, as I read this, where we go from here, that this new continuing resolution will extend the government funding to January 30th, at which time, or, between now and January 30th, if this gets approved, the government will be back open. And it does avoid the risk of lawmakers, kind of stuffing an omnibus through in December. what do you anticipate to see from here?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is going to be a temporary fix or something more permanent. But ultimately, I don't think anything changes really. I think, you get, it's good news. It's gonna, if we can get a deal, it's good news, right? No deal, right. Yeah, absolute disaster. So I think
it does look like some of the reduction in force that, that has been, kind of part of this, what preceded the shutdown, that the Trump administration may, relent on some of that. So, I mean, people that are, kind of in the so-called, permanent government will, be brought back. Of course, furloughed workers would return as well. People would get paid. Things, that we've had, in place in terms of federal infrastructure would be restored. But then there's the whole negotiation of, what amounts to be a clean, continuing resolution after the expiration of this temporary, agreement, which will be a whole different set of battles. I don't know. I mean, what do you, where do you see this? Where do you see this going?
Look, I woke up this morning thinking, no resolution. The government shutdown's continuing with no progress being made. And I think this is progress, right?
Yeah, right.
So I think this is good news. I think the markets are going to interpret this as good news.
Markets already are pretty happy. I mean, from what I've seen this morning, Thursday and Friday, we had such an incredible run, in particular on the NASDAQ. And I know we're going to talk about AI and kind of the future of work, job cuts and whatnot in our next episode, which is what you wrote about for this week in the Everyday Economics column at the Center Square. So we can take some time, to go through that then.
Yeah. But I think you highlighted some key numbers though. I mean, the ACA being a sticking point. Look, the bottom line is more people got insurance coverage. The cost also went way up. Right. And so, look, we're an aging economy. And we're doing it at the policy front. It seems like we want to get older and we're not, letting young folks coming into the country. And so the country is going to keep getting older. And what that means is healthcare costs are going to keep rising, or we're going to have to do a heck of a lot to take care of our old, going forward. And so, that's why these, demographic, things like immigration policies, any major demographic, thing that we're facing today, the demographic challenge that we're facing today is so important to pay attention to, right? It has implications for policy. It has implications for your tax dollars. And so we need to keep paying attention to, these changes in these demographic changes that are occurring before our very own eyes, because this will matter for everyone, right? Social Security, health insurance, healthcare costs matter, right?
SNAP. Well, and you could toss SNAP benefits into that too. And the size of assistance programs related to nutrition.
Well, a lot of things are going to have to get cut, sadly, because of some government programs that are literally just going to take up, right, a bigger and bigger share of what we're able to spend our money on.
You can argue whether they're good ideas or bad ideas, but they're ideas that cost
overcrowding. You're going to get some overcrowding, right? And so we got to a point where we have to be very careful about what types of policy ideas that we're going to be advancing in a time where economic growth could be slowing. And
that's exactly right. The gravy train, it may not be stopped, and it's certainly not off the tracks, but, it's having to tap the brakes. Hey, let's come back and talk about artificial intelligence in a second. Let's call it good for now. Obviously, we want to, recommend that everybody dial in and read as much as you can about resolution to the government shutdown. It's going to affect a lot of things. And I think the details are going to be more easily accessible over the course of today. And we're taping this on Monday, November 10th. And hopefully by the time that you and I come back and tape our next week of shows, which will be somewhere around the, 16th or 17th of November, that we would have, a clearer picture of what this all means. But why don't we bring it to a close here, and we'll come back. We'll talk about some AI. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right.